Assalamu alaikum to all the energetic students out there. With an energy booster, this is your own teacher, Azak Rashid, giving you a rocking welcome into another video session of Assimilate English with Azak Rashid. With this hope that you all must be as fresh as a blooming flower and as happy as a twinkle star. Let's begin our lecture. But in today's lecture, you are supposed to make a guess of the topic that we are about to discover today. It's something that you've been a part of since your childhood. It's something that you're doing since you've started speaking. It's something that you contract with in daily basis. It's something that you confront on the daily basis. It's something that you are a part of. It's something that you will be a part of since the last breath you'll take. I know that your curiosity has kissed the skies. Now, come down. Let me tell you what it is. It's nothing but dialogue writing. What is a dialogue writing? In this video session, we'll talk about how we can write an effective and amazing and mesmerizing dialogue writing. First of all, let's move towards what is a dialogue. Dialogue is something that we speak, that we talk about, but the great answer is here. The definition of the dialogue is conversation in a story or any time something is said aloud. Let me give you an instance. Whenever you talk with someone, whatever you say is a dialogue. And whenever you are in conversation with someone, whenever you listen is a dialogue. When you write dialogue, you're stating a person's exact words, feelings, emotions, etc., etc. Then comes the reason, the purpose of why do we write a dialogue? What's the purpose of writing a dialogue? As you've been reading novels, watching movies, cartoons since your childhood, you've read a lot of dialogues everywhere. Whenever you read a dialogue, whenever you read a novel, you contract with a lot of dialogues, emotions, and all these. The purpose of dialogue makes a story more interesting. It can reveal what a character thinks or feels. It also shows what a character's like, personality. Let me give an instance. You got entered into a class late. Your teacher was your teacher was giving the lecture or taking the class, and you introduced the teacher with your arrival. So the teacher will look you quite curiously and will ask you, "Hey, where were you? Did you see the time? You're coming late like every day." So whatever he said was a dialogue. So we come into interaction with dialogues. And this tells the feeling of the character. Character means the person who has spoken the dialogues, like the teacher, who was quite aggressive and angry at that time on you. This shows the feeling and thought of the character and it gives us a kind of feeling that the personality is quite aggressive. Then comes. So we've talked about the dialogue, what is, and all that. Now it's time to learn how we can write good dialogues. You must be thinking, what's in it? What's in it to write a dialogue? Something a very big subject to talk about. Like when you're talking about the dialogue writing for the movies, like when you're writing script, it comes in a big scale and a vast scale. But right now we're talking about in general that how you can write dialogues. Let's start with the very first thing, that is indenting. Let me pronounce it again for you. It's not intending usually. Seems quite similar when you see the word and automatically it pops up from your mouth. It is intending. It's not intending, it's indenting. When writing dialogue, start a new paragraph each time the person speaking changes. What does this mean? This means you must indent. I think you didn't get it. Let's take an example, then you'll better know what is it. "Hey, come over here," you all call Jill to her friends as they got out of the car. So whatever's been spoken in inverted commas is actually a dialogue, it's a message or something. So that's what he said. You are supposed to write that in a new paragraph. Then the reply will be, "Sorry, we are late," apologized Annie as she and Martha hurried toward Jill. So that is actually the second person. The first one was call Jill to her friends. So the first speaker was Jill, and then the second speaker was Martha. Was Martha. So when you've written the dialogue of Jill, you wrote that in a different line, and then you skip a line and write the dialogue of the other person or speaker, Martha, we'll consider here, with in a fresh line. Rules for the spoken word. The speaker's words should be set apart from the rest of the sentence with quotation marks. It's something that we know, but here we have to tell you, like example. Let's suppose you've been to your uncle's, and you saw your uncle, you met him. After shaking the hands, he asked you, "How do you do, Azar?" And I'll say, "I'm good, sir." So whatever I said or your uncle said will be coming in inverted commas. Elaborate that these are the words spoken by someone, coming out of someone's mouth. Rules for punctuation. Begin the first word of the spoken part with a capital letter. And the second thing is place and punctuation inside the quotation marks. What does it mean? Here we have the example over here. The dialogue written in front of me is, "Look at that!" with exclamation. Peter exclaimed, or exclaimed Peter, "Look at that!" So the look will be starting with a capital letter as it's the beginning of a dialogue, and it will be ending with an exclamation mark, and that is, it could be anything. Over here, it's an exclamation, so we've added an exclamation mark, but we could add a question mark if it's a question, or you can add a full stop in simple. Let me give an instance like, "Hey, what are you doing? Have you gone mad?" So I'll add a question mark in the end of that rather than writing an exclamation mark, because that is a question been asked. And when I'll say something, "I'm doing nothing," I'll add a full stop because it's the simplest statement. Then comes more rules. Let's discover more rules about that. A comma separates the speaker in a tag from the spoken words. What are the spoken words? Spoken words are the message or someone's dialogue. Example is this. Example is here for you guys. The doctor stated, "I think you'll feel better soon." The patient replied, "I hope I will recover soon." In these examples, you must have been observed the comma with a quite different color, that whatever's been spoken, the spoken words, has been written in inverted commas. What is written except the message or inverted commas is called the tag. That tells about that who has spoken these words and all those. When we'll have a look on sample dialogue, we'll get to know it more clearly. So here we have the doctor stated, "I think you'll feel better soon." The patient replied, "I hope I will recover soon." Rules continue. The spoken words are sometimes interrupted in the middle and the first part of the spoken words with quotation marks. Begin the second with quotation marks. Use commas to separate the spoken words from the tag. I think you've been you didn't get it, but let me give you a more vivid picture of this with the example. "Do you realize," asked Rod, "that we forgot the raft?" So if you've seen over here, there are two different dialogues. Do you realize that something written in inverted commas? Then we have the tag, "Ask Rod." There is an interruption, intrude, and that we forgot the raft. He's spoken again. So there are two different dialogues, and then comes the tag in the middle. So what we'll do, we'll just do the same thing that we've done earlier, that we'll add a comma whenever we are writing something, when a tag is intruding our conversation. The other example is, "It's too late now," I said. "We'll have to come back later." In this case, the same thing has happened over here. So here, I hope that I've given you quite a good idea about how to write a dialogue. But here we have a sample dialogue for you to give you a more vivid picture of what a dialogue is. Here I've taken an extract from a very, very famous novel of Emily Bronte, that is Wuthering Heights. And there is a conversation going on between two. Let's see what they are talking about. Okay, let me clear you one thing over here, that what I've observed since I've been teaching English for so long, that students do not consider English as a language. Hmm? Is it a joke that I did? No, it's not. Because what they do, they always try to they always try to read English. They never try to speak English. What does this mean? Does it make a sense what I said? Yeah, it makes. Because English is a language. And language has expressions in it, language has emotions in it. But whenever it comes to speaking or writing, students usually forget the expressions and emotions in that. So what I've observed that when someone comes in front of the class to give the presentation, they all come with a paper or something and they start reading. They do not use their expressions and emotions, which is totally wrong. So English is a language. The way you express the way you express your emotions and feelings in your own language, your native language, you're supposed to do the same with English. So I'm going to tell you how to do it perfectly. He had a son, it seems. Yes, he had one. He's dead. Have you observed something? When I read the very first sentence, I spoke in something in a manner that I want to know about something. When I spoke the first one, because that was a question. When I spoke the very second sentence, it was a statement, kind of sad one, because it's telling about someone's death. And that young lady, Mrs. Heathcliff, is his widow? Yes. Where did she come from originally? Why, sir, she's my late master's daughter. Catherine Linton was her maiden name. I nursed her. Poor thing. I wish Mr. Heathcliff would remove here, and then we might have been together again. What? Catherine Linton? I exclaimed, astonished, but a minute's reflection convinced me it was not my ghostly Catherine. Then I continued my proceeder's name was Linton. It was. And who is that Earnshaw, Puritan Earnshaw, who lives with Mr. Heathcliff? Are they relations? No, he is the late Mr. Linton's nephew. I hope that I've given you a very firm idea of how to write and speak dialogues with full of emotions, with full of interjections, full of exclamations and emotions. I hope that I have given you a very brief idea how to write a dialogue, and I hope that it will help you to enhance your dialogue writing. And that's we are done with this video session. Thanks for watching, students. Thank you so much, dear students, that you have watched this, and I hope that you will keep learning the way you've just done, and you will remember me special prayers till that. So we'll meet in the next session. Till that time, take care of yourselves. Sayonara.